Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Ifunaya, and if you are new on this channel, you are welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you are not new, you're welcome as well. And so today we're going to be learning how to make this wrap top that I'm putting on, and if that's something you're interested in, please keep on watching. And if you've not subscribed to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe, and let's get right into the video. So guys, this is the measurements I'm going to be working with for this top, and right here I have my fabric, my ruler, my scissors, my tape and my chalk. So the first thing I'm going to do is to fold my fabric into two, as you can see, and after doing that, now I'm just going to take the length of the top I'm going to be working with. So I placed my tape on this top part right here, and so the length of the top I'm working with is 17.5 inches. So I'm going to be adding extra 1.5 inches extra, and that gives me 19 inches. So I'll just mark 19 inches extra. The 1.5 inch extra that I added is for allowance, folding allowance. And so now the next thing I want to do is to place my tape on this point right here, and then I'll mark my shoulder measurement. The shoulder measurement I'm working with is 15, so dividing 15 by 2 gives me 7.5 plus half of an inch allowance. That gives me 8 inches. So I'm just going to mark 8 inches on this point right here. So this part where we marked our 8 inches is going to be our armhole area. So what I want to do now next is to come to this point right here and place my tape there and mark 3 inches. So I'll just mark 3 inches on this point right here, and then place my tape on the line, and I'll come down by 1 inch. And so after doing that, now I'm just going to be connecting both lines together, or both points together rather, making like a U curve. And so that is it for the back neckline. And so on this point right here, now I'm going to be coming down by 1 inch as well, and this is going to be our shoulder slope. So after marking it, now I'm going to be connecting it from this point to this point where the neckline started from. So the essence of marking a shoulder slope is because our shoulder is not entirely straight. As you can see on the screen, the shoulder is not straight, it slants on that point. So basically that is it for the shoulder slope. And so the next thing I want to do now is to place my tape on the new shoulder line which we are going to be working with. And so I would mark the bust point, and so the bust point I'm working with is 9.5 inches. So I'm just going to give it a mark on this point right here, and so this point here is our waist. And so on this point, this is where we're going to be taking our bust measurement. So I'm going to be dividing the bust measurement I'm working with by 4, and so I'll place my tape here, and then I'll divide my bust measurement by 4, which gives me 9. So I'll just mark 9 on this point right here. So coming down to this point, this is where we're going to take our waist measurement, and so I'll place my tape on the center point there, and then I'm going to be dividing my waist measurement by 4, and dividing by 4 gives me 7. So after marking that 7 there, I'm just going to be connecting this bust measurement to the waist measurement, as you see me doing right now. So guys, on this point now where we marked our bust point, I'll place my tape there and come up by 1.5 inch, and that new line that I'm going to be marking now is going to be serving as our armhole line. So I'm just going to make use of my ruler to extend the line up to this point right here. So after doing that, now I'm just going to be taking the measurements that I have on this bust point. Remember, we measured it and we had 9 inches. So I'm just going to take the same 9 inches, or rather the same measurements I have on my bust point, I would mark it out on my armhole line as well. So whatever measurement you're working with, you're just going to do the same thing on the armhole line. So now I'm adding my stitching allowance, and so I'm working with 1.5 inch as my stitching allowance. So I'm just going to be adding 1.5 inch all the way down to the waistline. Okay, now so I want to mark out my armhole curve, and I have this French curve right here, and this is what I'm going to be using to mark out the armhole curve. As you can see, I placed it on this point where we have our shoulder measurement, and then I made sure that it's meeting this allowance point as well. So I'll just use my chalk to mark it out, or rather connect them together, and that is it for the armhole, guys. So basically I am done drafting out the back piece for this wrap top, and I am done with the back piece, and now I'll just want to cut it out, and that is it. So guys, now it's time to work on the front piece, and as you can see, the fabric is folded into 2 already, and the next thing I want to do now is to place my tape on this center point right here, and then I'm going to be marking 9 inches. I'm making use of 9 inches because the bust measurement I'm working with divided by 4 gives me 9 inches. So whatever bust measurements you are working with, you divide it by 4, and whatever you get, you mark it. So this is me marking 9 inches on this point. Moving on, the next thing I want to do now is to get my back piece, and I would place it, making sure like starting on this point where we marked 9 inches. So I'm just going to place it there and make sure it's sitting properly on that point. So basically at this point, I'm just going to be cutting it out on the side, on the armhole, as well as the shoulder slope. So after doing that, now I'm just going to stop at that point of the neckline. So I'll make use of my chalk to give it a mark on this point where we have our neckline, the starting point of the neckline. So after giving it a mark, I would flip my back piece to the other side, and so from that top part I'm going to be marking 6.5 inches, and this is actually depending on how open or close you want your neck to be. So since the front neck is going to be like a V-shaped neck, I'm just going to make use of my ruler to give it a straight line, and then from this point now I'll curve it up to the end of that point right there. You can make use of a free hand, you can use your curve or whatever. So after doing that, now you're just going to make use of your scissors to cut it on the line which we marked. So now I'm done drafting both front and back piece, and now on this point where we have this line, I'm just going to give it a notch on this point right here. So the essence of this notch is so that you're going to know where you're going to be, placing your front piece and where it's stopping. So as you can see, both notches here meeting each other, and this is what the front piece looks like. So once you're sure that the notch they are meeting each other, you're good to go. And so I'm just going to place the back piece on the front piece, and then I'll go over to my sewing machine and then I'll stitch it up on the shoulder point, making use of 1/2 inch allowance. So guys, I am done stitching up both shoulders together, and this is what it looks like. So the next thing I want to now is to make use of my bias tape to fold up these edges together. I'm actually making use of my actual fabric. I had to cut it in a bias form, and so I'm just going to use it to fold up these edges together so you have a very neat edge. And the next thing we want to do after that is to arrange our front piece and our back piece, and then I'll make use of 1.5 inch seam allowance. Remember, we added 1.5 inch seam allowance while we were drafting this, so whatever allowance you put while drafting out this, you're just going to make use of it to shape it up on both sides. All right, now so it's time to work on the sleeve, and as you can see, I'm folding my fabric more like in a triangular form, and yeah, basically this is just how you fold it. I'm not folding it in a flay form, I'm just folding it in a triangular form because the sleeve is more like a flay kind of sleeve. So basically after folding it like this, the next thing you want to do now is to mark out a starting point. I'm marking mine on this point right here, and so the next thing I want to know is to place my tape there and mark out the sleeve length which I'm going to be working with. Okay guys, so now I want to mark out the sleeve length, and so the actual sleeve length I'm working with is 27 inches, but because I'm going to be attaching these pleats around the sleeve area, I'm going to be marking 25 inches because the pleat should be about 2 inches long. So I'm subtracting 2 inches from the actual sleeve length I'm working with, so that gives me 25. So this is me marking 25 on this point. So going back to this top part here, I'll place my tape there and then I'll come down by 4.5 inches. So now I want to connect these 2 points together, and so to do that I'm going to be marking it like an S, or rather a curve. Basically you can see what I'm doing. So this is the curve that I am actually talking about. So basically this is it for the sleeve, and I think what I have here is a bit too big for me. I don't really have a measurement for this trumpet sleeve, but now I just want to take out 1 inch from what I have here because I don't want it to be too big. So after marking out 1 inch on this point, I'm just going to cut it out, and this is it for the sleeve, guys. All right, so now it's time to attach my pleat on my sleeve, and on the tip of the sleeve, which is this point right here, I'm going to be attaching this on the tip. And so the length of this is 5 inches, and yeah, as you can see, I just measured it now. I have 5 inches right here, so that when we fold it into two, we're going to be having 2.5 inch, and we'll make use of half inch to stitch it up, and we are back to 2 inches. And so the width of this is 80 inches. As you can see, I got 60 here, and then I'm taking the extra length, which is 20, so we're having 60 plus 20, and that gives us 80 inches. So now to add my pleats to the sleeve, I'm just going to fold it up like this, place it at the tip of that sleeve, and then I'll go over to my sewing machine, and then I'll just make my pleats. I'm going to show you how I did it on my sewing machine, so you don't have to worry if this one is not going to be clear enough. All right, so now I have my sleeve, and this is the tip of the sleeve where we're going to be attaching the pleats, and this is what we are going to be using to make the pleats. So as you can see, I folded it up together, making sure that both ends are equal, and then I placed it at the tip of this actual sleeve, and then I'm just going to pleat it. So I just want you to watch this video, or watch this point right here, and then so you understand how I made the pleats. It's actually very easy and simple to understand. So guys, I hope you were able to understand how I added the pleats to this sleeve, and for the sake of beginners, that was why I added that clip. So basically, this is what I'm just going to do till I'm done with the end of the sleeve, and then I'm going to repeat the same thing for the other sleeve. So coming back to our top, this is what it looks like after I was done making use of my bias to fold up this point, and I went ahead to shape both sides as well, making use of 1.5 inch. And as you can see on this point right here, I made a small hole. I made sure that the stitch on the beginning and the end parts were tight. This is because we are going to be passing our rope through that point, because I mean it's a wrap top, so we definitely need a hole by the side. So guys, this is what we have for this top, and the next thing I want to do now is to fold up this edge. And so before I'm going to fold it up, I'll just place these both ends together, and then I would cut it up, because we're going to be attaching our sleeves to our rope to this point right here. So now that I'm done cutting it, I'll go over to my sewing machine, and then I'll just fold it up once, making use of 1.5 inch, and then I'll stitch it up all the way round to the end. So guys, this is what I have after I was done folding it up, and the next thing I want to do now is to attach my sleeve to my top. And so to do that now, I'll take the measurement of what I have on this armhole. So as you can see, I had to open it up to take the measurement round, and so after taking the measurements, I have 18 inches. So I'll get my sleeve, and so I'm going to be dividing 18 inches by 2, and 18 inches divided by 2 gives me 9 inches. So I'll place my tape on this point right here, and then I would get to where I have 9 inches. So wherever I have 9 inches is where I'm going to mark. So after dividing your round armhole by 2, whatever you have is what you're going to mark. So I'm just going to be extending this line all the way down to the end of the sleeve, and after doing that, I will just go over to my sewing machine, and then I will stitch it up on the line which I marked. So I hope you guys understand it at this point. So after I was done closing it up on that end, this is what my sleeve looks like. I went ahead to iron it up as well, and so now I want to give it a notch on that center tip right there, and the essence of this notch is so that I'm going to know the center while I'm fixing it around my sleeve. So now this is what I'm going to do. I'll just get my top, and I'll place my sleeve on my top. So on the part where I have my notch, that is where the shoulder point is going to be. I hope you understand. And then I'm just going to pin it up on this point, and then I would go over to my sewing machine, and then I'll just stitch it up round, and that is it. So I'll do the same for the second sleeve, and I'll be back to show you guys what I have after I was done. So guys, after I was done attaching my sleeve to my top, this is what it looks like. You can see it looks very beautiful already. So the next and the last thing I want to do now is to attach the rope to the top. I mean, what's a wrap top without a rope? So guys, The rope I already cut out, I cut out 2 of this rope because you're going to be attaching 1 on each end of this top. So the length of this rope that I'm working with is 2.5 inches, as you can see, and so the width I'm working with is 60 inches. You can actually work with something longer than 60 inches or something shorter than 60 inches, depends on you. I chose 60 inches because I don't want it to be too long, neither do I want it to be too short, so I wanted it to go around my waist twice. So after taking the measurements, now the next thing I want to do now is to go over to my sewing machine, and then I'll fold it up like this, and then I'll stitch it up, making use of 1/2 inch. I'll do that to the end of the rope, and then I'll also do the same for the second rope. And after doing that, now I'll just attach it on this end of this top right here. And so I'll do the same for the other rope, and then you attach it to the other side of the top as well. And so this is what it looks like after I was done doing that. I went ahead to iron it up as well. So I'm just going to attach one end to this end of the top, and I'll go over to my sewing machine to do that, and I'll make use of a very tight stitch so that it doesn't pull out when I'm trying to wear it or when I'm trying to adjust it up. And so guys, basically this is what it looks like, and we've come to the end of this tutorial, guys. Thank you so much for watching up to this point. I hope you find this video very useful and helpful. Please, if you have any question, you can leave it in the comment section. I'll be there to answer your question. Please don't forget to subscribe if you've not subscribed, and I'll see you all in my next tutorial video. Thank you guys. Bye.